I was with Bernie Sanders in 2016 at the climate march with Shama Sawant, the socialist city councilwoman from Seattle, and she was pressing him about running as an independent, arguing correctly that uh, the Democratic Party was never going to give him the nomination, and that we were never going to build a sustainable political movement, or he calls it a political revolutionary movement in an election cycle. And I think 2020 has just proved his naivete. Bernie's answer was, "I don't want to end up like Nader," which means I don't want to end up a pariah. I don't want the Democratic Party to mount a campaign so I lose my Senate seat. I don't want to lose my seniority within the Democratic caucus, which he has. I'm going to be a loyal lieutenant to Schumer for 4 years, and they're going to give me a chance. And he was wrong. And I think XR, one of the reasons I like XR is it gets it. The system is not going to respond to us. The only hope is to pit power against power. And that means to create centrifugal forces of power outside of the system.
Yeah, well, this seems to me like one of the main things that like separates you from other commentators, because I think a lot of commentators, have a fairly standard analysis, which sort of reflects what you've said, that the system is basically broken. But it seems to me like they don't want to cross the Rubicon to actually say that rebellion is both necessary and justified. And I think that's something that maybe more people are going to start thinking about as a result of what's going to happen over the next few months. And I think like the question for me is, okay, so, Bernie Sanders' campaign isn't a political revolution he claims it to be. Then what does the political revolution in 2020 look like? What are the main structures and features and organization or, features that point the way? Because the fact of the matter is no one really has got a lot of experience of it in the Western world, right? It's not like we've been doing this for a long time. It's been 30 years of people trying to do gradualist and reformist sort of measures, often with really good intentions, of course, but it hasn't actually brought us anywhere, as we're finding out at the moment. So what's your vision? How do you see that political revolution?
Everything within our power to obstruct and destroy the mechanisms of corporate power and their ability to garner profit. That's why I was at Standing Rock. I was, in France with the Yellow Vests. I was with XR in New York when we shut down the street in front of the New York Stock Exchange. That's it. That's our only hope. And I don't share the culture's kind of mania for hope. I think hope is, or the selling of false hope is disempowering. I think the first thing we have to do is face the bleakness before us, and even accept that we may not succeed, but that we have a moral imperative, especially for those of us who have children, because they're going to inherit what's left of this world, to get out and fight in every way possible to make that world sustainable for them. So I don't know if I'm going to succeed. I'm 63 years old. But I at least want my kids to look back and say that I tried. And that's going to be uncomfortable. I don't like going to jail. I've been to jail, not for a long period of time, but I've been to jail, as you have. That's kind of more time than I care to donate to the U.S. government. But I'll do it. And even if we fail, we create a community. We nurture life within what I would call a culture of death. And I guess in that sense, I fall back on somebody who comes out of a faith tradition, and I'm not in any way trumpeting one faith over another. I spent 20 years overseas. I saw how people out of all faiths and all tradition rose up on behalf of the oppressor to fight for the oppressed. And those are the people who I have kinship with and who I admire, whether they're Muslim or Hindu, or it makes no difference. but I do think that the fact that I come out of a religious tradition is not accidental, because as Daniel Berrigan, the great radical priest, said, when I asked him to define faith once, he said, "Faith is the belief that the good draws to it the good, even if all empirical evidence says otherwise." I think that there is empirical evidence that the good draws to it the good. It's why, like XR, I'm rooted in nonviolence. Um, but then we have to let it go. I mean, there's no surety, there's no certainty. And certainly that within our lifetime, I mean, within my lifetime, everything that I fought for has gotten worse. But that I don't think invalidates what I've done. And I think that's where being rooted in a faith tradition, I mean, certainly our two greatest prophets in the United States, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, came out of, deep religious traditions and beliefs.